There is a place in southern Africa where some of the largest animals on Earth live side by side. Elephant, giraffe, buffalo, hippo, Nile crocodile, all weighing in at more than a ton. But it's the hottest and driest time of year. Food and water are getting scarce. How do these giants make it through the lean times? This is the story of amazing adaptations and ingenious strategies that give these heavyweights the edge in one of the hottest places in Africa. The Luangwa, one of the last great untamed rivers in Africa. It flows through a vast area of pristine wilderness, a mosaic of habitats, from plains and woodlands to verdant lagoons. But every year, these disappear. It's October, the height of the dry season. It hasn't rained for 6 months. The once fertile plains have turned to dust, and the lagoons are drying up fast. The largest land animal on Earth must overcome many challenges if it's going to survive. African elephants, weighing in at 6.5 tons, need a guaranteed food supply, available 24/7. But with the valley's vegetation fading fast, the grass on the plains is long past its best. The woodlands provide a refuge. But even here, they can't be picky eaters. The food is low in nutrients. Everything goes in. Branches, seeds, roots and bark are all on the menu. Their 2-meter trunk, made up of 40,000 muscles, is the perfect tool for these bulk eaters, grabbing everything they come across. They spend 18 hours a day, every day, feeding to meet their quota of 300 kilos of food. But after all this work, they digest less than half of what they eat. And this means a lot of dung. Over 130 kilos every day. For the resident troop of yellow baboons, it's irresistible. They pick through this unusual delicacy in search of undigested seeds. While the elephants are shoveling in as much food as possible, the tallest animal on Earth has a different strategy. It's a little more choosy about what it eats. This male giraffe is more than 4.5 meters tall and has the longest neck in the world. He can reach delicacies others can't, and doesn't need to feed on tough and tasteless vegetation. A 45-centimeter tongue and dexterous, tough lips mean he can tease out leafy treats from the most hard-to-reach places. Like elephants, giraffe also spend 18 hours a day feeding. All this time with his tongue out means it needs protection from the sun. A pigment called melanin makes his tongue dark blue, an adaptation to prevent sunburn. Pushing through the bushes in search of a meal gives plenty of opportunities for parasites to latch on. But a 2-meter neck makes grooming a bit awkward. Red-billed oxpeckers are here to lend a hand. They keep him fit and healthy by picking off disease-carrying ticks. And in return, they get a free meal. But giraffe aren't the only giants oxpeckers have a special relationship with. Buffalo make their way towards the river. They may be the smallest of Luangwa's heavyweights, just tipping the scale at 1 ton. But unlike elephant and giraffe, they have strength in numbers. Megaherds of over 1,000 buffalo roam through the plains. As food and water become scarce, smaller herds join together. A strategy which also protects them against predators. Competition for food is higher, but more eyes looking for danger means each buffalo can spend less time scanning and more time feeding. But it's not always enough for the old and the weak. This time of year is a struggle for these grazers. Each buffalo needs to scrape together over 15 kilos of food a day. To find enough, they have to adapt, expanding their diet from grasses to leaves. But still, this scorched vegetation has little moisture. It's tough to break down. To aid digestion and quench their thirst, the herd heads to the river. It's one of the last remaining sources of water in this wilderness. They drink as much as they can, over 80 liters a day, before making the long return journey to the plains. The last of Luangwa's heavyweight herbivores is the hippo. This male weighs over 3 tons. He is the beach master, the dominant bull. During the day, he guards his territory and a group of hippos known as a pod. At this time of year, several pods can be squeezed together into the largest hippo congregations in the world. Over 300 strong. Bull hippos spend all day asserting their dominance over encroaching rivals. It's exhausting. But the setting sun brings the hard-working beach master some relief from the stresses of the day. At night, like all hippos, he leaves the river to graze on land. A military-grade thermal camera, which sees heat instead of light, reveals his feeding habits in incredible detail. Using tough, sharp-edged lips, he plucks grass instead of biting it with his teeth, allowing him to graze shorter grass than any other heavyweight. He has to eat 40 kilos of vegetation. When grass is in short supply, and your table manners are this sloppy, it can take all night. In high concentrations, hippos can leave devastation in their wake. The beach master would be a feast for these lions. They're the Nsefu pride, and they're 14 strong. But armor-like skin, 6 centimeters thick, and 50-centimeter tusks make him formidable prey. It will take the whole pride to bring him down. He splatters dung, a rather unsubtle warning for the lions to get out of the way. He's too big and strong for the pride. They'll have to wait for smaller prey. The elephant herd has even less to worry about than hippos. After a day of feeding, it's time for a quick nap. Elephants sleep for 4 to 5 hours a day. While lying down, the calf is at her most vulnerable. But the herd will take it in turns to listen out for any threats. For buffalo, the dark is what nightmares are made of. This is when the lions are most active. As the lightest of the heavyweights, a buffalo is a much easier target than a hippo, and one of the Nsefu pride's favorite prey. A big buffalo could feed them for up to 3 days. The buffalo have poor eyesight and hearing. At night, they rely on their exceptional sense of smell, letting them know when to stand and when to run. The herd tries to stay in a tight group. Separation means being outnumbered and outgunned. This buffalo has lost the safety of the herd. He's not defenseless. Sharp horns curl around his head to form a bone shield, known as a boss. One powerful strike could kill a lion. But he can't take them all on alone. He bellows to bring in reinforcements. A buffalo's strength lies in group defense. Distress calls have been known to bring herds to the rescue. The lions might be able to take one down, but two together is just too much. The Nsefu pride will have to go hungry for now. As the day dawns and the hippos return to the safety of the river, the rest of the bush's inhabitants stir. Tens of thousands of red-billed quelea take to the air. They are the most numerous birds on Earth, 10 billion strong. At 20 grams each, they may not be heavyweights, but the flock's combined weight is more than a buffalo. Having stretched their wings, they settle down to drink. Only a young crocodile would bother with such small prey. It will be decades before this one grows into the river's apex predator. This huge crocodile could live for 100 years and will never stop growing. He might reach more than 6 meters long. And the Luangwa River is full of these giants. Here, more are found than anywhere else in Zambia. Nile crocodiles are the only predator in Africa to weigh more than a ton. They're Luangwa's final heavyweight. These reptilian giants are so successful, they have barely changed in over 200 million years. There's an uneasy truce between the river's heavyweights. This crocodile could easily take a newly born hippo. But with its mother close by, it's not worth the risk. A fully grown hippo can bite a crocodile in half. While hippos are struggling to find a meal, the dry season can provide easy pickings for a crocodile. Old and weak herbivores are struggling to make it through this tough time of year. All the crocodiles have to do is wait. And they have plenty of time on their side. After a big meal, it will be 2 years before this dominant crocodile has to eat again. So food is rarely an issue. He faces a very different challenge to the other heavyweights. Crocodiles are ectothermic. Their environment controls their body temperature. In the cool morning air, crocodiles are slow and sluggish. It will take some time to raise their temperature to an optimal 32 degrees Celsius. But their heavily armored skin hides a secret adaptation. Each scale contains a rich network of capillaries. As they bask, blood flows to the surface, is heated by the sunlight, and then returns to warm the body. As these reptiles are heating up, warm-blooded heavyweights are trying to cool down. Mud coats the buffalo's skin in a protective layer, like sunscreen, and also helps to remove parasites and soothe insect bites. But the lagoons are drying fast, their mud becoming thick, sticky sludge. Every year, buffaloes run the risk of getting stuck. Getting stuck means getting eaten. For most, this lagoon still has enough water to be safe. It acts like a beacon for all the valley's warm-blooded residents, including the largest of the heavyweights. Temperatures in the Luangwa Valley regularly hit 48 degrees Celsius. Staying cool is a constant problem for the elephants. They're so big and round, they find it hard to lose heat from their inner core. They don't sweat. Water's too precious to waste on thermoregulation. So they have other ingenious adaptations to help them cool down. Wrinkled skin means a larger surface area to radiate heat. Unlike fur, the elephant's sparse, bristly hair lets air flow close to the body, increasing heat loss by up to 20%. But their most effective heat management adaptation is their ears, the largest on Earth. They are so large, they increase an elephant's total surface area by up to 25%. More space from which they can lose heat. A rich network of blood vessels brings heat to the surface. As elephants flap their giant ears, air passes over the intricate web, cooling the blood and lowering their temperature. But when it's 48 degrees Celsius, even these adaptations aren't enough. There's only one thing left to do. Muddy water may help the herd cool down, but it's not the most thirst-quenching. They prefer a cleaner drink. They're not the only thirsty animals heading to the river. The Nsefu pride have beaten them to it. Lions are a threat to the young calf. The pride may have got here first, but thirst drives the herd on. The adult elephants keep the calves safely tucked between them, while making it clear they're not to be messed with. With their message delivered, it's safe for the herd to drink. Their trunks make quick refreshment easy. They don't sip through it like a straw. They suck up more than 12 liters with each giant sniff, which they then squirt into their mouth. They are thirstier than any other heavyweight. They can down more than 270 liters every day, enough to fill a bathtub. Mid-morning is when most of the valley's wildlife comes out to drink. But not all animals are lucky enough to have a trunk. For a giraffe, drinking is a little more complicated. Reaching the water requires some expert maneuvering. And simply lowering her head could be fatal. While upright, a giraffe's heart can beat up to 170 times a minute to pump blood to the brain 2 meters above. This raises her blood pressure to twice that of any other mammal her size. When she drinks, blood rushes down the neck and floods towards the brain with gravity. If unchecked, the force would cause brain damage and certain death. To stop this, her arteries have especially thick walls, keeping them from rupturing. And extra one-way valves in her jugular vein prevent backflow. When her head is lowered, the valves close, stopping backflow blood from rushing into her brain. As she tosses her head back, they open and blood flows back to the body. She is perfectly adapted to the hellish heat of the dry season. Slender legs and a long neck increase her surface area, letting her lose heat much faster than an elephant. In times of need, dark patches on her skin, known as thermal windows, are activated. Blood vessels dilate under the patches, increasing blood flow and releasing more heat. The patches also have more and larger sweat glands, which cools the blood flowing through the thermal window. A difference of up to 10 degrees Celsius can be seen between these hot radiating patches and the spaces in between. All these adaptations mean a giraffe can go weeks without drinking at the cruelest time of year. Even longer than a camel. It's the middle of the day. Most animals have taken shelter from the sun's blistering heat. But the cold-blooded Nile crocodile has only just warmed up. It's time to hunt. As the water levels have fallen, giant catfish have become concentrated in ever-shrinking pools, making them easier to catch. Sensory pits line a crocodile's snout. The pits allow it to detect movement rather than see in the murky water. Lying still, crocodiles wait for a fish to come too close. and explode into action. The giant catfish can be quite a mouthful. But the crocodile's 60 teeth are built to grip. While the crocodiles relish the midday heat, the beachmaster and his pod are struggling. There's no shade from the scorching midday sun. Their thick skin means they're at risk from overheating. The skin alone can weigh more than half a ton, almost a fifth of a hippo's weight. It secretes a thick, oily red liquid, a natural moisturizer and sunblock. But the most effective strategy to avoid the sun is to stay submerged for much of the day in the protective muddy waters. They seek out the deepest spots in the river and sleep completely underwater. Even though they're asleep, every now and again, they come up for a breath of air. But as the dry season takes hold, the river keeps dropping. If it gets too low, much of the river will be too shallow to cover them. The consequences for many hippos will be fatal. The river is the main source of water left in the valley, and animals concentrate along its banks. For the herbivorous heavyweights, elephant, giraffe, hippo and buffalo, competition within species for resources and mates becomes fierce. Tempers flare. Fights break out. For the beachmaster, a spot in the deepest part of the river is worth fighting for. He may look docile, but this heavyweight is one of the most aggressive animals on Earth. Scar-covered and battle-hardened, he has to protect his 100-meter stretch of the river. He's in his prime. His reign has lasted for almost 4 years, but each dry season has been a relentless battle. All along the river, falling water levels are forcing hippos to search for a deeper spot. The beachmaster's kingdom is under threat from rival males. Smaller, submissive males may be tolerated, but fully grown bulls must be met head-on. What a challenger may have in strength, the beachmaster makes up for in experience. Gaping his jaws 150 degrees wide, he displays his arsenal: canines for slashing, and incisors for stabbing. The stakes are high. Losing will force him out of the water and expose him to the searing sun. Lip smacking. The rival tries to intimidate him. The beachmaster squares up, hoping the rival will back down. No such luck. The beachmaster forces the challenger out of the river. When evenly matched, a serious fight is settled on land. They clash face to face, protecting their flanks from each other's slashing tusks. Incisors inflict serious puncture wounds in the lower jaw. The beachmaster, on the left, goes on the offensive. Getting under his jaw, he forces his rival onto the back foot. Biting down with a force of 1/4 ton per square centimetre, the beachmaster delivers a decisive blow. Experience wins out. The beachmaster retains his deep water kingdom, for now. But it won't be long until the next challenger comes along. For the loser, severely weakened and with no deep water to rest in, the consequences can prove fatal. The reptilian heavyweights gather for the feast. The biggest and strongest of the Nile crocodiles open up the carcass for the others. The less dominant just have to be patient. Snapping down, these heavyweights generate nearly 1/2 ton of force per square centimetre, the strongest bite on Earth. They can't chew. Instead, they throw their weight around. Latching on and spinning their one-ton bodies in a maneuver known as a death roll, they rip chunks of flesh and swallow them whole. They tolerate each other, the most dominant feeding first. But if there's a dispute, the biggest and strongest one always wins. Nothing goes to waste. Crocodiles have the strongest stomach acid in the world. They will eat everything, from blubber to bones. They also swallow stones, which stay in their bellies, helping crush and break up food once it reaches their stomach. By dawn, the carcass will be gone. Nothing will remain. The dry season is almost at an end. Soon, rains will quench the earth and trigger an explosion of new growth. Most of Luangwa's heavyweights have made it through the hardest time of year. The fact that these huge animals can survive in such an extreme land is a testament to their remarkable and impressive adaptations, honed over millions of years. From the giraffe's tongue to the elephant's ears, these giants are perfectly equipped to see out both feast and famine.